Now at 10, we're on the weather watch, not for tomorrow, but Saturday looks like a super soaker. We'll time out the rain and the prospects for flooding coming up.
The family of Mubarak Sulaman speaking out for the first time since Trooper Brian North was acquitted on all charges connected to his death. We'll hear their perspective on the verdict.
A big loss for downtown Hartford. The city is losing its oldest continuously operating restaurant. Tonight we're hearing from the owners on why they're calling it quits and from the mayor on what comes next.
Now at 10, this is Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
And we begin tonight on the Weather Watch, tracking a major storm set to hit our state this Saturday. Thanks for joining us for the Fox 61 News at 10. I'm Brent Harden.
And I'm Sarah Sanchez. Heavy rain could cause some flooding. We're talking about in parts of your home that could flood, or if your property lies near a river. You're looking at what's expected from that system that's moving in.
Chief Meteorologist Rachel Frayne joining us now. Rach, how much rain should people expect, and will it stick around all weekend?
No, it won't stick around all weekend. It's out of here in time for Sunday, but we're anticipating 1 to 3 inches of rain before it ends up getting the boot. I think the heaviest will be in the afternoon and evening, but in terms of the timing, this starts around or just before daybreak on Saturday and goes through Saturday night around 10 or 11 o'clock in the evening. And with all of this rain coming down over a relatively short period of time, again, there could be some flooding issues. This isn't the high-end flooding like we saw over the summer, but keeping an eye on basements and some rivers, especially where the heaviest ends up setting up. The radar is quiet here close to home, which is something that we like to see, but we're watching this storm developing and moving out of the Gulf where it has plenty of moisture to gather. We're looking at gusty winds still out there, but they're on the way down, thank goodness. We still have gusts 15, 30 miles an hour. Temperatures are in the 20s to around 30, but it feels like the 20s when you factor in those winds. Those winds have made it so biting today, especially with that colder air. Overnight lows will drop back into the 20s as we head towards daybreak, and we could even see a few of our colder spots in the upper teens. Lots of sunshine tomorrow, cold start to the day. We're near average to finish with highs in the mid 40s, increasing clouds by Friday evening, and that rain right around daybreak on Saturday. We'll talk more about the timing, show you the future radar, and the improvements for Sunday coming up.
Thank you, Rachel. For the first time since the grueling trial began, the family of slain suspect Mubarak Sulaman are sharing their disappointment in the verdict, but they're also charting a path forward after Trooper Brian North was acquitted on all charges connected to this shooting death. Fox 61's Matt Karen has reaction from the family.
4 years later, and you can still see the pain on their faces. You can hear it in their voices. The family of Mubarak Sulaman sharing their raw emotions with us, but also sharing their ideas on how to hold law enforcement accountable in the future.
It's been a long 4 years.
From the original pain of loss,
We're overwhelmed, we're distraught.
to the courtroom trauma of reliving a nightmare,
That was an intense day.
to the pervasive feeling that justice is forever out of reach.
It's hard, very stressful.
The family of 19-year-old Mubarak Sulaman spoke for the first time since 33-year-old Connecticut State Police Trooper Brian North was acquitted of all charges connected to his killing. What would they say to him?
No comment.
And while the criminal trial is over, a civil lawsuit will now move forward as a final plea for accountability.
We're going to move on. We have another step to take.
It was January of 2020 when Sulaman, in the midst of a mental health episode, led police on a chase in a stolen car down I-95, crashing in West Haven.
Police officers obviously do not have the training to deal with those who suffer with mental illness.
Troopers surrounded the vehicle, and less than a minute later, Trooper North fired 7 shots. North claimed he thought Sulaman lunged at officers with a knife.
He stepped out of that car, and within 36 seconds, he shot 7 gunshots to my brother, who was seated in a car with the windows up. That should say it all.
The Office of the Inspector General said officers failed to de-escalate the situation and deemed the use of deadly force unjustified, saying no officers were in danger because Sulaman was contained in the car.
The real justice would be my brother being here today and not having been killed so ruthlessly the way he was by Brian North.
Criminal defense attorney Mark Ahrens told Fox 61 the issue of qualified immunity for police officers should be scrutinized.
Yes, but that's something that has to be taken up on a national basis. And
he said prosecuting law enforcement shouldn't be as rare as it is.
First time ever that any state trooper has been prosecuted in the state of Connecticut. And it's the first time in 17 or 18 years that any law enforcement officer, state or municipal, has been prosecuted for shooting someone. So it almost never happens.
Attorney Ahrens told me he hasn't spoken with any of the jurors. But as this civil suit moves forward, it should be easier because the burden of proof would move from beyond a reasonable doubt to a preponderance of the evidence. He told me that their legal team is willing to accept a settlement offer to avoid relitigating the case and re-traumatizing the family. Reporting in Bridgeport, Matt Karen, Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.
Well, a 26-year-old man is dead tonight, shot to death outside a Waterbury courthouse this afternoon. Police say they responded to a shots-fired call outside the Grand Street building, and when they arrived, they found the man suffering from a gunshot wound. He was taken to a hospital where he later died. Police say the man was attending court proceedings earlier in the day, but he has not been publicly identified at this point. Police are still searching for a suspect, and anyone with information on what happened should call Waterbury Police.
New at 10 here, the EPA warns tenants in one Putnam apartment complex could be in danger. The EPA says nothing has been done to address lead-based paint complaints that go back for years. The lofts at Cargill Farms Mill was converted into apartments opening in 2020. 2 years later, the local health department found a child living there was exposed to lead. Tests found over half the units were positive for lead-based paint and dust hazards. The EPA is ordering the company that owns the apartments to immediately fix the issue.
Well, 10 days from now will be last call for a brewery that has stood in downtown Hartford for nearly half a century now. The owners of Steam Brewery say they are closing for good on March 31st. The decision was made after a water pipe burst and flooded the building. That caused the brewery to close for 4 months, and the business has struggled to bounce back. Management telling Fox 61 tonight that the financial situation was just no longer viable.
Kept the business going as far as we could with all the generous federal grant money. City money has helped us a lot since COVID, and it's just month to month, not enough sales coming in, too many bills.
The Steam Brewery started as Brown Thompson and Company back in 1980, and the name was changed to Steam in 1997. It's believed to be the longest continuously operated restaurant in the city of Hartford. Mayor Arunan Aralampalam says it's a tremendous loss.
It's disappointing news to hear. The city's been working with Steam for a while. It's a historic restaurant. It is a restaurant that I love. I've had some great nights at Steam, some great memories there. We're hopeful that we can work with them to find creative uses of that space now and to allow for a permanent owner to come in the future.
Now, the building is currently up for sale. Steam says while it may be the end of their one brick and mortar location, they will continue brewing and shipping their beer across the state.
Michelle Tronis was in court today, her first appearance since being found guilty on all 6 charges against her.
Now, this time she's facing a misdemeanor charge from something she allegedly did during that 31-day trial. Fox 61's Julia LeBlanc has the breakdown from Stamford.
Nearly 3 weeks ago, Michelle Tronis faced her fate at this courthouse. Now she's back in the same place, but on a different charge.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Michelle Tronis, once again in a Stamford courtroom.
It's got a separate docket number.
Smiling to her family and friends in the gallery and blowing them kisses.
Would you like an opportunity to pre-trial the matter with me?
Unlike her recent 7-week trial, this proceeding ended in a matter of minutes with a new attorney and a Spanish interpreter by her side.
I have provided a physical copy of that report to counsel.
That report is the one in question. It's a sealed custody document involving the divorce between Jennifer Farber-Dulos and Fotis Dulos. Tronis faces a contempt charge connected to this moment caught on camera during her recent trial.
Ms. Tronis appears to have a text from a sealed report on her monitor in a very high, big font.
It's alleged Tronis purposefully displayed the sealed document on her laptop during testimony for the public to see. One of Jennifer's close friends brought it to the attention of prosecutors.
Why don't we come back to court on May 15th?
The judge set Tronis' bond for the misdemeanor charge at $100, but she's still being held at the York Correctional Institution on a $6 million bond after a jury convicted her on all 6 charges of conspiracy to commit murder, hindering prosecution, and tampering with evidence, all in connection to Jennifer Farber-Dulos' death.
We stand here in support of Michelle Tronis.
Michelle's mother speaking with reporters outside of court.
She's a devoted mother, a sensible individual, and she will never harm any other human being, and much less a mother like her.
A mother this family continues to defend.
We will continue to support Michelle until we pursue her freedom.
Now, Tronis' new attorney declined to comment outside of court today. Now, she is expected to be back at this courthouse on May 31st for her sentencing on the 6 other charges, but she'll also be back before that in April for motions filed by her other attorney for an acquittal and a new trial. We are in Stamford. Julia LeBlanc, Fox 61, Connecticut's news station.